Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Djuma Game Reserve this morning. My name is Mark. Becky is with me on camera, with Seb in final control. Really pretty morning this morning. Some nice light, sort of filtered light. And I don't know what the weather's going to be doing. There's some cloud. It was a little bit heavier this morning to the south, but we'll have to see how that goes. There were little patches when we woke up. During the night it's been clear. I'm just seeing the last bit of the waning crescent up in the sky. Coming up tomorrow, it'll be so close to the sun we won't see it when it rises. This is Djuma Game Reserve. This is our morning safari. I hope you're going to have some fun with us, and let's go and see what we can find for you. I'm on Zoe's Road at the moment, and we're going to head up Zoe's Road, and I want to go to Impala Plains and up onto Sandy Patch and then to the north. Let's see what we can find in the western part of our traversing range, in case I haven't been for a while. Mary Jane, good morning to you. Mary Jane in Florida. We have another Mary Jane in Hawaii. What we'll call Mary Jane in Hawaii, MJ. Excuse me one moment. Good morning, Texan. I'm on Zoe's Road, so far good. Oh, okay. Animals shouting on open area near camp. I didn't hear that. I missed that sadly. Oh well, we might have to turn around. It might be something. There's always a dilemma. I've often mentioned this. You get to a junction and you think, okay, I'll go this way today, but I know there might be something that way that I'm going to miss. Luck of the draw, I suppose, in some ways. Anyways, Mary Jane was saying, or was asking, Mary Jane in Florida, asking if there are any animals that we have not seen, any animals that occur here that we've not seen. Well, I don't answer that on a personal level, but to answer it on a broadcast, live, on camera point of view, there are a number of animals we still have to see. Of course, it's us as a live camera. There are a lot of viewers out there that have a lot of animals to see. You've got to remember that we're not seeing everything every day. Especially some new viewers. Some people might not have seen cheetah yet. Someone might not have seen wild dog yet. Gee, there might even be people who haven't seen lion yet. Going to stop at a very active termite mound. Got a hornbill that's trying to break in. Some very fresh mud. Just going to go. If I go any further, we're not going to see that. Excuse me a moment. Couple of interesting things. You can see that dark patch. And there was a hornbill there. On the top of the mound, where there's a little bit of guano, there's a dark patch, and then on the top of the mound there's a bit of guano. There's also very fresh workings. Now this is one of the indicators of weather change and weather coming. Also has something to do with maybe the warm weather that we've had. But there's got to be some moisture in the air and some hint that there's going to be a change occurring soon because of this working. Now the hornbill's back. The clay that we're seeing, the wet clay, and I brought some to show you. Just put some over here. It just looks like mud, but it's actually a very important compound. It's what sets. Yes, actually getting into the termite mound now. That hornbill eating a few termites. You see, they're coming close to the surface to work on it. They might have opened it up in the heat of the day. Seb was telling you about this the other day. They might have opened up a few chimneys just to let some heat out because of the heat of the day. The air conditioning, their air conditioning system needs to be adjusted because let's say they've had it set for the cold months, and if the weather suddenly warms up, they have a possibility of overheating. And one of the ways that they generate heat, one of the ways, is through all the activity in the termite mound, and a lot of activity that centers around the queen in the termite mound, and they will adjust her height in the termitarium depending on what weather's doing, or rather what the season is doing. And in the colder months, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's higher up, and in the hot weather they have the queen lower down, so that it might be the other way around, I forget now. But it's quite a mission to move the queen because she's so big and she doesn't fit through the tunnel, so they've actually got to, well, that's a long story. Anyways, they've been working on it, and as they've been working, the birds have been pulling the mud out, and they've been trying to seal it. They've sealed that bottom hole, but there are a couple of holes that the termite, or rather the hornbill, is busy reopening. And of course, once there's a breach in the termite mound, the soldiers come to protect it, and of course the hornbill just swallows them up. But this is a very interesting clay. In fact, this clay that is the byproduct of termites feeding on dead wood, they reduce it down to almost pure carbon and sand. I mean, the sand grains are there naturally, but it's a sticky compound that is the byproduct of what termites do when they're eating wood. And I could mold this into just about anything, this clay. It's perfect, it's almost perfect clay. It's a clay that was once used on tennis courts. Of course, you can't get a lot of it. You could break down a whole termite mound and rehydrate it. But this is a very interesting little block of clay. And interesting that the termites are working. But they're closing it up because daylight is coming, and the hornbill keeps opening it up again. The queen of the termite mound, she's laying thousands of eggs a day. She's very, very huge and fat, and she's filled with protein. She's filled with all sorts of nutrients. And the only way to move her is for the soldiers to actually suck her dry, I suppose, in a way. There are hundreds and hundreds of workers, not soldiers, workers, or even not thousands of workers, actually each take in a tiny droplet of this liquid that is filling up the queen. And they move her, and then they feed it all back to her, and she swells up again. Anyway, this is another thing I found on top of the termite mound. This looks like a little bean. That's the seed of a jackalberry. So there was a bird that was eating a jackalberry fruit, maybe even that jackalberry down there, and then dropped it out. This would have come out the gullet, not out of the other side. Birds tend to regurgitate undigested material rather than defecate it out, as opposed to animals that might defecate undigested material. Red-billed hornbill, teasing termites. So animals we haven't seen for Mary Jane. a lot of the nocturnal animals, although we're still out when it gets dark, and the first hour after sunset is sometimes one of the best times to see some of the nocturnal animals, because they're most active just after dark to some extent. But there are a number of nocturnal animals that we would love to see on camera. We haven't had, of the diurnal species, we haven't had black rhino on camera, but they're quite scarce. It would be nice to get the likes of sable antelope coming through here once in a while. Not really likely though, we don't have the grassland. Grassland, or the type of habitat that they like. I guess you might find sable in a place like this. Gosh, I'd have to think about it. If I suddenly come up with the name of an animal during the drive, you'll know what it's in reference to. Great news. Hello Heather. Great news that you're watching from hospital. I raised my glass of green tea. It's not a glass, it's a cup. Mug. Look here, I'll show you something else. I was saying one of the things that distinguish, although they are completely different creatures, I suppose that's only really to the, I'm just looking at those ant mounds on the ground there, those two are, we just a little bit too close. Let me move a bit. The other one is, there we go. Ants and termites are about as different as cats and dogs. In fact, you could say they're as different as cats and elephants. Completely different creatures, different functions in life. And where termites use a mortar, a type of sticky substance that is a byproduct of their daily activity to bind grains of sand, ants do not have the capability or the capacity to bind grains of sand. So when ants are building a mound, when they do need to build a mound, they can only build it to a particular height until the grains start falling down again. But what is interesting about those two little entrances to the ant burrows are the shapes and the freshness of the grains of the sand around them. Ants will only really do that when weather is coming. Otherwise, when there's normal weather without rain coming, it'll just be a hole without very much working around the hole. And what that is, it's actually a flood defense. It stops water from running in, but also what happens is that the rain will turn that into sort of mud and cover the hole. It will cover the entrance and prevent water from running in. I don't know if we're getting rain. I'm just saying that there's termites that are working, and now that I'm seeing ants, we'll see if there's some more things from ants. The function of termites is vital to the success and the health of any ecosystem. In terms of breaking down dead plant material and allowing trace elements to be returned back into the soil. Now, the main building block of plants is the cellulose of a plant cell, the cell wall of the plant, and nothing can really break that down. Not cellulose, not cellulite. Cellulose can only really be broken down by fungi and bacteria, and it's bacteria that is, I suppose in a way you could say, employed by termites, apart from them being able to break it down themselves, but they also have bacteria in their gut that helps break it down even further. And one termite will eat whatever dead wood or dead plant material, and it'll break it down as far as it can go, and what it excretes is then passed on to the next termite, who extracts even more nutrients out of it, until all that is really left is sort of the cellulose and a sort of a basic carbon compound. And that finally, I suppose you could say, it's kind of like termite dung. But to say it's dung makes it a bit yucky for some people. But I guess that's what it is. And that's what termites use to bind their grains of sand together, to build tunnels. For the one species of termite that builds a very big mound, it allows them to do just that. I'm going to go around this big triangle here. Looks like old leopard tracks there. Unfortunately not very fresh. Rebecca's Road, sister to Zoe. Teresa in Virginia Beach, hello. Discussing plants and fruit and what we can pick to eat. Actually, that's something, Teresa, it's hard to really discuss it at this time of year when there isn't anything. But we're going into spring and then summer. So as we go along, and this is why this is different to the kind of safari you'll have if you come on safari and you're here for only 2 or 3 days. This kind of safari, what we do is we actually watch everything over the seasons. And I mean, I could rattle off a list of plants that we can harvest things from, but it won't have any meaning until we actually see the plant or see the fruit, and actually I can pick a fruit for you. So it's something that we will and can discuss as the season moves on and we get closer to the time when there are going to be flowers and fruits and things. I'm just trying to think, did I finish that other question from, was it from Georgia? I was just discussing ants and then so sidetracked. But he said that previous question. Just yeah, that's what it was. Who was that? Oh, Lucy, not Georgia, is it Arkansas? Lucy was asking about snakes, and then I saw those ant mounds and got distracted. It's just that sometimes when I see things, I want to stop and tell you about it because it's fresh in my mind. Lucy was asking, do we get snakes here? Yes, Lucy, we do get snakes here. We get quite a variety of different species of snakes. We don't see them, unfortunately. We don't see snakes very often. Very lucky to see snakes sometimes. From the vehicle, I mean, you know, if you're walking and you can be quiet, you can see a lot more reptiles than we're able to see with the vehicle. The vehicle provides a lot of noise and makes a lot of noise, a lot of vibrations. Of course, snakes don't hear things, they feel vibrations. But hear things better. They have ears. But weather's warming up once again. That isn't a good possibility for us to see snakes, other reptiles, some of the lizards. We get a lot of different lizard species, different types of lizards as well. Geckos, agamas, skinks, grass lizards. Seps. Getting back to Teresa's question, there's a fair amount there's a fair variety of plants that one can harvest as a human, but nothing that's really sustainable. Things only fruit for a very short period of time. They fruit prolifically for a short time to make sure that animals spread the seed. But this isn't a great environment for a human to have to survive in. On things like fruits. There are tubers and roots that one can eat. There are a few berries and things. But since they do only fruit for short periods of time, and mostly sort of mid to late summer, there aren't very many things that you can find at this time of the year. Jackalberries should be fruiting at the moment. I'll see if I can find you a jackalberry in fruit, especially now that I've found a fresh seed on top of that termite mound. Should be able to find some jackalberry fruits when we go near a jackalberry tree. And if I see anything else that's edible along the way, I'll stop and tell you. Heather, so glad you're doing good, man. So glad you're watching. And how's Shelley doing? Also happy that you can watch from hospital. Coming up to Impala Plains now. Resident pair of rollers are here. Can't even see the mountains today. It's very hazy and cloudy over the mountains. We ought to be seeing the mountains in the west. Oh, the roller flew away. Termites are edible. Termites are very good. Take a page from a chimpanzee's book and just stick a little grass stalk down a termite mound. But you have to lick it first. It has your scent on it, and then the termites attack it. The best termites to eat are the reproductive ones, the ones that fly around in the summer. Then you just put a light in the frying pan on a fire, well, not the light on the fire. Frying pan on the fire, some light coals, put a light next to it. That's not a nice way to eat. So it's just not coincidence, but it's just one day I was cooking on a fire after a thunderstorm, or during a thunderstorm. I had more termites in the pan than anything else. Triple M boundary, our western boundary. I'm just having a look to see if there's anything on this road. There were giraffe. Just in case there's some tracks. We just go to the top of that ridge and turn around. We're just a few yards up the road. In case there was something wandering up and down. It's quite a main road, this, going into the northern Sabi Sand from the northern gate. It's quite a broad road. It carries a lot of traffic, including delivery trucks. But it doesn't stop animals from using it. In fact, Karula has used it a lot in the raising of this litter of cubs. There's the giraffe whose track I was looking at. We can see them. They're looking into the sun though. No, it's going to be a... Alright, see if we can just change the angle a bit. They're quite far in. And it's quite dense. I'm not going to try and go after them because if I start crashing through bushes, they're going to run off. But it's looking right into the sun, so sorry, I'm going to have to maybe give it a miss. Can't even see them from this angle, that's too thick. Okay. Find out the giraffe. Thank you, Marla. I think Shelly's going to be, rather, Heather's going to be staying with Marla. But Marla's saying that Shelly's going to be released tomorrow. Heather maybe as soon as Saturday. Gee, that's amazing. That's quicker than me. I thought I would do pretty well leaving after 10 days. That's fantastic news. Woken up yet. Internal clocks are not working. Excuse me, hornbill. Giraffe tracks here, but to go the other way. Another mound of sand from some ants. Well, new moon's coming, who knows, maybe we'll get a sprinkle. This was a big male giraffe by the looks of things, the way he went to. Dragging his feet. See a cheetah walking along the road. Right, that was Impala Road. We're now back at the junction with Access Road, which is the main road into the lodge. This is an area that we know is known as Sandy Patch. There was a pride of lion once upon a time that was named after this area, Sandy Patch Pride, but eventually were reduced to one individual, an old lady by the name of Sandy Patch. She just took on the name of the pride. 2 years ago she had 3 cubs, and slowly but surely she lost one and then another. The last remaining cub, there was a time we saw them right here on this junction. She chased after some giraffe, but that chronic limp of hers, some young giraffe. Sadly she passed on, so did her last cub. This road is Sandy Patch North. We'll go up to Biffles of Cutline, and that pretty much covers our western limit. Go to the southwest, but from the west to the northwest, that pretty much covers that area. And not much in the way of animal activity in terms of fresh tracks. Hasn't been that much recent movement, animal movement in this part of the world. Of something. Can't quite put my finger on it. Green. Fauna. Up to Sydney's Dam. We are on the limit of our broadcast range, but it's always a good area to maybe see something interesting. The cats, nice and open place where we have seen cheetah before. Cheetah come through this part of the world. I guess. Anything? No. That cheetah for Diane. Yeah, I guess. Hello Diane. We have cheetah living at Djuma. What's their favourite habitat? Well, we've just been through part of their favourite habitat. We have cheetah that come through the area, Diane. We don't have cheetah that are resident here because we don't have... Well, cheetah's habitat is open grassland. That is how they have evolved to carve out a niche for themselves that can't be exploited by the likes of lion or leopard. Lion and leopard aren't able to hunt the way cheetah are, and that means that they need huge open grassland areas where they can, where their speed is their advantage. This kind of terrain, I've seen cheetah hunt in this sort of terrain, but it's a lot more difficult for them. They can't attain the speeds that they need. They don't have the stalking prowess and strength that the other cats have. So we do get cheetah that come through from some big open areas in the north to other open areas in the south, and we have cheetah that move through this area, but we don't have any resident here as such. One of the reasons why I've just done the area that I've did now is because that's almost like a corridor for cheetah, because there is a lot of open ground sort of heading from Sydney's Dam heading south to some of the more open plains, and it tends to be an area where we have seen cheetah a lot when they do move through Djuma. Station at Biffle's sign heading up Biffle's cut path. Oh, the dog, did you just come off Aubrey's Road? Back up in tank. Do Gallagher shortcut then. I actually want to show you something at the lodge. We'll go past the lodge. Evidently there were some animals alarming there earlier. Texan didn't find anything. Maybe it's a good idea to go back past the open area near camp and see if there's anything around there. And we can maybe find out why there were animals making a noise. Porcupine been here. I've just picked up Cheetah. The Djuma guides. Not too sure where I know it's not. In Torchwood, one of the other dams off of our broadcast area. We can't go there. But speaking about Cheetah, Ephraim's saying 2 males. I heard someone say something about 3 males. Maybe it's only 2 brothers, perhaps. An elephant here. There's elephant. Now, let's get them. These are a couple of little boys that are probably lagging behind the herd. Let's just go forward a little more through this drainage line and see if we can see the others. Thanks, Linda. Linda's saying there was also a female cheetah seen in Coral yesterday. Coral's somewhat to the east. I've actually got a map here that we're going to keep it in the vehicle now. We can have a look at some of the areas around us. Not a great map, but we'll have a look at it soon. Well now, I'm only seeing those 2 little boys. We have to turn around and go back and see if we can find the rest of the herd. They're both youngsters. Means that there is a herd around here somewhere. Okay, they're not here. They must be maybe down that other shortcut. gaan we in blå van Gallagher shortcut. If you maybe bring, or rather come along that other shortcut, Ephraim shortcut that comes back to Gallagher shortcut, there might be more there. Try and get in here. It's not easy. Not much weight to get in here at all. Here go. No, from Biffle's a cut line. It's just east of Gallagher shortcut. There's another little 2-track that comes back to Gallagher shortcut. Morning, children. Mark here. Say hello. Hey. It's okay, little boy. Come say hello to us. That's got a little skew growing out to the side. Got a round leaf teak that he's getting the bark off of the branch. I tried to go forward a little bit. I stopped because he was turning away. As you saw, as I stopped, he decided it was fine and he turned back towards us. I was thinking of moving forward because of the angle, but that's actually fine. He's moving and probably better not to start up again. Might disturb him. Oh, I can see elephant running way through this. The rest of the herd must be to the east of us. Another one running. That's on that shortcut. Hey, young man. His little friend. I think they're hearing a little bit of what's going on with some females. Probably, yeah, I can hear them trumpeting now. Probably about 200 meters away. They're both listening now. They both stopped chewing. They both stopped moving. Ears are still. They're listening out for. Oh, they stopped listening now. It's only got to be in their bonnet. Probably from whatever commotion it is that they're hearing. And they're both youngsters. They're both only around 10 years old or so. Probably not quite going through puberty yet. But slowly gaining independence. Slowly, as they grow up. I'm going to leave them going into really thick bush now. As they grow up, and start going through puberty, they start lagging further and further behind the herd. They're not really interested in the females and the calves and all the girly stuff, especially at this age. Very similar to us as little boys. We reach an age when we're not interested in girls, and then we go through a long period like that, or a period like that, and then suddenly when we get into our teens, we start going through puberty. Suddenly we're interested in girls again. When they're young elephants, there's no differentiation. They play happily with each other. But then from about 7 or 8, it's a big deal to lag behind and pretend you're a big elephant and not worry about what the rest of the herd's doing. While the other elephant were running. You are coming? Where you now? Yeah, these 2 young males have headed that way. I could see through the lateen there was a bunch of them running on that shortcut and a lot of trumpeting. So I think the rest of the herd is there. I'm going to make my way your side now. There's no visual from Gallagher shortcut anymore. There you are in front of me. I could see a couple running on that ridge, heading to the east, and these 2 little boys went up towards them. This is more or less where they were running, and there's a big booby in there that they just disappeared behind. So they're down here in this dip. Jacques, they're down there off to our right where that booby is. Something was spooking them though. There was some running and some trumpeting. They've gone deeper in. If they're going towards the east, they're actually going towards Gari Dam, going towards camp. Oh well.
Alright, I'm going to be moving on then.
Okay, cheers. We're going to go back. I still want to go back past the lodge. I still want to show you something at the lodge. Especially if head is to the way. Interesting question, Janet. Janet Jones is asking, does a young elephant bull have an option to stay with the breeding herd? I guess you could say so, Janet, but it's just not in their nature to do so. They will socialize with the herd once they've left. They will come back to the herd. They might even follow the herd by a mile or two and actually still be within vocal contact with them for a few years. There's so much that an elephant has to learn, that even as a teenager, even at the age of 15, 18, when they might leave the herd. So it's not a case of just one day they leave a herd. Also, elephants are not really kicked out of a herd the way, say, rhino run off their babies when they're ready to have a new calf. Rhino physically run off their previous calf. They actually physically chase them away. Elephant doesn't really work like that. Elephant, it is all a sort of natural progression. I can still see a couple of grey shapes, but they're so deep in the bush. Quite far in. From a very young age, and we will see this whenever we watch elephants. Sorry. From a very young age, from when they're still children, you will always see the young males browsing a little bit away from mom and her calf, her new calf. They're always the last to leave the water. They're always lagging behind, and that distance can just get bigger and bigger. Or as we saw now, those two little boys, I don't even think they're quite 10 years old yet, but they both a fair distance from the herd. There's still a lot that they have to learn. They are still only children. At their age, it's about the same mental capacity as a 10-year-old child, our children. And there's still a lot to learn about where to go in the different seasons, where to find food. Sorry, just listening to the radio. Okay. So as they grow older and they grow more independent of the herd, they eventually reach a point where it's more attractive for them to find an older bull and spend time with older bulls and learn what it is to be an elephant, a male elephant, because elephant bulls have somewhat of a different lifestyle to the females. But it doesn't mean that they can't come back and socialize with their mother and their siblings, their aunties, because that is a family, and that's and those familial bonds last a lifetime. See, some animals that grow up and get chased out of a territory, they're never going to come back to, well, not never, but the chances of them coming back to that territory and socializing with their family are very remote. With elephant, it's a completely different story. They will happily, especially because there's no territory involved, but they will happily rejoin with the family, have wonderful reunions. They might spend 5 minutes together, they might spend 5 days together, they might spend 5 weeks together. There's no real set rule about how things work. It's just males, when they start going into adulthood, there's stuff that bulls have to do. They have to learn to spar, they have to fit into a hierarchy to some degree. When I say hierarchy, I mean it's more like a fitting into a explain it. Automatically knowing who's the strongest and who and each other's strengths and weaknesses. And that is a system that to some degree reduces the risk of serious fighting and serious injury when it does come time for access to females. And you'll only really get serious fights if you get 2 males of equal strength that are going to, each one is going to refuse to give way to the other. Our station's leaving the log of these in Globe. They're heading east towards where Taylor might come out of Gary Dam later. No vision. Saw another tree orchid in the distance. Oh no, my clay. Finally lost one piece of clay. Texan, whereabouts that lock? Thank you, Dan. We're in Buffalo Ground? Okay, thanks. The west of Hunter's Moon. Now, I think Hunter's Moon is Danhauser property. Quite far up in Buffalo's. Let me show you something quickly. Where's my pencil? There we go. Okay. Here's a map that is given out by Djuma of places. I just want to see, I've got to try and see the, okay. It's not an easy map, but what I can show you, just find a book to back it up. I'm going to draw on it. That is our western boundary. This is the gate, and this is Buffalo's cut line. And this is Cheetah cut line. Buffalo's cut line, our northern boundary. This is our eastern boundary, Cheetah cut line. And our southern boundary, which is Gari Main, and that is Djuma. This area up here, you can see there's almost a triangle coming into Gari Gate. This is the gate into the reserve. This area up here is Manyaleti. It's a provincial park run by provincial administration called Manyaleti, and this area is Buffelshoek, north of us. It's a fairly large area, that's Buffelshoek. And almost the exact size of Djuma, if we had to sort of mirror that to the north, Right up here in the north is where these cheetah are, so they're quite far away. They would have to come southwest to reach us. To the east of us, to the east of Cheetah Cutline, this is all a place called Torchwood. And we often hear things like First Rock and Second Rock, that's where they are. Up here in Buffelshoek, there's quite a distance away. We follow Cheetah Cutline and we carry it straight north with Cheetah Cutline. We come to an area between Sussens Dam and Nyala Dam. We hear that on the radio a lot as well. What else can I show you? Well, the south of us is Hoffman and Wessels and Little Gowrie. And way to the east, if you want to see, here is, you can also see, it's almost also the length of Djuma. If we double that on this side, way to the east, this is where Nkoro is. And this huge area, way to the east, this is the Kruger National Park. So this area, this line here, is actually the Kruger Park boundary. It's not a physical boundary, it is merely a fire break. And the animals do move freely between the two. But one of the reasons why Nkoro sees a lot of animals coming in from Kruger is because their eastern boundary is the Kruger boundary. Right down here. Now this is only the northern, small northern region. This is only the northern tip of the Sabi Sand with all of these properties. Way down south here is an area known as Mala Mala. To the southwest is a place called Singita. Much further to the west is a place called Leopard Hills and Yati and a lot of those lodges. So this would be about, I would say, maybe a tenth of the size of the Sabi Sand Game Reserve, and this is all maybe a tenth, not even. No, not even. Maybe, gosh, it's only a tiny fraction of the whole size of the Kruger Park. Probably put another, I suppose you could say 10 times the size of the Sabi Sand into the Kruger Park. No, a lot more than that. 40 times would go into Kruger. 50, 100, whatever. So it's just a very small area. And it goes to show that this little area, that this is Djuma. And it just shows you how much movement of animals can take place across our boundaries that we can't when we can't follow them. And you know, when you can have an animal that is up here and it's moving down, it'll take 2 minutes to cross from one boundary to another if it's moving at an angle. Anyways, just thought I'd show you that. We can pull that out another time if we need to, especially when we have animals on other boundaries, across the boundaries being picked up. And we hear names that we don't know where they are. We can have a look. Now, elephants were here. We could have come, if we had come here maybe first thing. Possibility we might have seen the elephants here on the road this morning. But we went to Zoe's road instead. I didn't even hear them when I was waiting for the clock to tick over to 6:30 to start the drive. I walked away from the vehicle a little bit just to try and listen to things. I didn't hear anything. Anybody see anything special at the dam last night? I see that eagle owl was back screeching around. Must be a juvenile. Somebody was saying it would make quite a noise. A very typical eagle owl noise. don't know if it, yeah. No, I just wanted to know if it. I just wanted to know if Heather and Shelley, if they're still awake and they're watching, because I've got a flower for them coming up, if it's still flowering. It should be. Got two up my sleeve. No, at least one of them will be there. So I'm taking you into the lodge. Well, not into the lodge, but into the car park. We're going to go as though we're a guest now. This is what you're going to see. If you're a guest and you're driving into Vuyatela and Djuma Game Reserve, come past this first entrance that has a no entry sign. That's where that's where our camp is. Djuma TV. That's where our camp is. On the right is the big open area known as quarantine. Get to the next sign. Some really lovely mosaic work. All the signs, everything here at Djuma is mosaic work. Another no entry sign further on. That's to the owner's house. And then there's this wonderful sign made out of mosaic. This is the entrance to Vuyatela. So we're going to drive into the car park. Marla or anybody, Heather, if you're in chat, if you're still awake, hope you are, otherwise I'll have to come back later this afternoon, do this again. Smell breakfast cooking. I'm getting hungry. There, the flowers. I wanted to get a really close up of one of these, or some of these, like that bunch there or something. But this is now beautiful, peaceful grounds of the lodge. Sadly, we don't have any of the species growing out in the bush. I haven't found any yet. They tend to mostly only grow in rocky areas. We don't have too many rocky areas. Maybe that little head of flowers would be nice to see those too. Anyways, this is just to brighten up two people, mostly. For all the ladies, but especially for Shelley and Heather. Maybe they're still awake. Known as the Impala Lily, also known as the Sabi Star, and also known as the Desert Rose. Okay. Some of the old viewers, there are a few plaques on the wall further on that brought to my attention by Penny in Durban. There are a few plaques on the wooden wall there. There's a wall of remembrance. There are a number of number of people's names on those plaques. People who are viewers in the past that have sadly passed on. And if I could, I would get another one added. A guy by the name of Jack from Florida. He used to send in questions, and I wonder what happened to him. And yesterday I learned that Jack passed away a little while ago. Not very long ago. Jack Coynier, I think his surname was Coynier. If I could, I'd put Jack's name there. Looked like Jack was a man after my own heart. Anyways, that pathway then goes into the lodge, to the reception, to the deck. And unfortunately we can't, we'll have to try and figure out a way to be able to show you these things one of these days. A little room just off to the right, that's the massage, that's the therapy room. Massages and beauty treatments there. Stated in Yati, he wants to know how far it is from Djuma. Hi Laurie, well it's actually, the crow flies not too far, probably about 8 miles, 10 miles, maybe more, as the crow flies. Now I wish I could show you the wild pears. They're 2 beautiful wild pears flowering in the staff village. Can't just see the one. Can't really get to it. No. I don't know if you can get a gap that's... No, you can't. The one that's really pretty we can't see. The other one, maybe just through there. Do you think you can get that? Just in front of that telephone pole. Which is actually not a telephone pole, it's a power line. You can see how profuse this wild pear blooms, and that's the closest we can get to it. All those cream-colored flowers in the background. If I go roll back a bit, no, it doesn't make any difference. Hard to see, but sadly, although it's quite a prolific tree, even outside the park and going into the southern part of the Sabi Sand, there's so few specimens. That's probably because elephants really like it. They don't have pear fruits like the pear. I think it's called a wild pear because the blossom is so similar to a pear blossom. But they don't have the fruits that pears have, so that they do have bark, what elephants like. Laurie, in Yati, I've been at Inyati, I spent a lot of time at Inyati. Not a lot actually, it was barely a year, but I was also driving around Inyati, one of my first jobs in the bush 20-something years ago, when I was based at Ulusaba. I used to use the Inyati area. Theoretically, it's not possible to get from here to Inyati through the reserve. Not really allowed to drive through other people's properties. So it would take, as close as it is, although we could probably see it. If I could get to high ground, say the bottom end of Zoe's Road, I'd be able to show you where Inyati is. But it would take well over 3 hours to drive there because you'd have to go out of the reserve and all the way around. I have in the past driven along the fence line between here and Inyati, but it's not allowed, and I'm lucky I didn't get caught. Now that I'm admitting it, I'll get jailed. There's no statute of limitations on that one. I won't get jailed, I'm only kidding. Carolyn Johnson, are there any native tribes in the area? Yes, there are, Carolyn. All the people that we work with are the Shangaan tribe, but they, as most people throughout Africa, I suppose they've adopted, you could say they've adopted Western culture a lot. There are no native tribes that still live the way they did 100, 200 years ago. Essentially, the Shangaan people were hunter-gatherers, and that's where their knowledge of the bush comes from. Magpie shrikes or long-tailed shrikes calling. They also do that call when there's rain coming. Clear skies today though. Doesn't mean that rain's coming immediately. It could be 2 or 3 days away. And some termites think there's... Oh, Seb's trying to get through. I've just been looking, thanks Arda and Frank, I've just been looking at wildebeest tracks of other adults and females, and they're up ahead of us, some more wildebeest. So I think Billy no friends, Waldo, Willie, Wildo, Wally, our wildebeest got some friends at last. And they're still with the impala. But it's just funny, I was looking down, I was seeing more wildebeest tracks than just one male, and I looked up, lo and behold, there are a couple of more wildebeest. Ida and Frank are wondering if solar repeaters could be put out to increase our driving range. They could, and there have been in the past a couple of places where there have been repeaters with solar panels. The problem with it is it won't increase our range very much because there's still political issues to overcome to be able to go across our boundaries. And waterbuck, wildebeest, impala and waterbuck. I don't know how many wildebeest have come back. Morning children. I'm glad you all look up and say good morning when I greet you all. Hey Waldo, Wally, Waldo. Maybe not so much. It's another bull that's come to visit. I don't know where the females are. There were some wildebeest, other wildebeest tracks there. I think that's Waldo, that's him in front there. I think that's a bigger, older bull in front there. This might be one of the younger bulls, maybe from 2 years ago. 2.5 years ago. Not that young. But the other thing about solar panels and repeaters and things is, unfortunately, they cost a lot of money. And at this stage of the game, we are trying to generate revenue. We don't have that kind of revenue to be able to buy solar panels and regulators and batteries and repeaters and as I say, that wouldn't really matter because it would increase, it would maybe we would be able to get a few extra yards to the west, but our signal coverage is fine to the north, it's fine to the east, but maybe it's just to the west that we would need a few extra yards. But we still can't go across our boundaries, the boundaries of Djuma. Working on it, and it might happen one day. For the time being, though, it's all about trying to make this viable, getting enough viewers on board that we're going to be able to continue with this into the future. And the next 2 months are going to be quite critical on whether or not that is going to happen. A couple of young male waterbuck, 3 actually. These 3 waterbuck in front of us, all 3 of them are young little boys. It'll be interesting to see in a few months' time. They're going to probably be getting lessons and sparring from the older bulls. What's up, little boy? Sorry, you were zoomed in. I'm just rolling forward. This goes to show I'm moving without the engine, and they're a little bit more skittish than if I was. I suppose the squeaking might have something to do with it. A lot of animals are not too fond of the vehicle moving without the engine. Tires make a different noise. Lovely mixed group of animals actually, very peaceful. Bye kids, see you later. We're moving on. Canaries in front of us. Just good to see them. Stay there. No good looking at them into the sun, we won't see the yellow. But they won't stay still. Okay. Another time perhaps.
Just gonna try and find out who's in that area and then, yeah, let them know. Do you think she found it? Not sure, it looks like she's using them somewhere. They're quite heavily mobile.
Heavily mobile.
Yeah, let me just find out who's in, anybody in that area.
What area is that?
South of the gate.
I'm at the lodge.
Is anybody close to the area south of the gate that Pete's got Karula?
Okay. I can make my way there up for his access road.
What's up to you? He's got a...
Pete, come in. Pete, come in. Pete, I don't know who Pete is. Yeah, you see, I had this feeling about Karula being there, and that's why we went to Triple M this morning. I guess timing wasn't right. Yeah. Fire away. I see. Need to know with the eagle owls, is it only the juveniles that make the high-pitched screech? I'm not too sure about the... I'd have to hear it. No, I don't think the adults make a high-pitched screech. But it's barn owls that make a high-pitched screech. But then maybe this juvenile is young enough to be doing that. Okay, look, we're going to go up Vertella Access Road. There's a chance we can get to see her Karula and the cub are up that way. We were there this morning. In fact, they're probably going to walk on top of our tire tracks if they get anywhere near Impala Road. So I'm going to do something. We're just going to go straight through the lodge. Actually, shouldn't, but we are. Past the dam. Hardy dogs. Single hardy dog flying in. Doesn't have any names on Simbambili. And I thought One-Eyed Clan was up near the gate. Why is he talking about Gary, Maine? But no matter what it is, coming northeast off of Triple M boundary means that she's coming into West Gary. So there's a good chance that we might catch up with her. Scott in Illinois. Scott wants to know if guests are escorted to and from their rooms. Yes, they are, Scott. That's quite important. In fact, that guests are escorted. In most places I've worked, we escort the guests to and from the rooms. During the day, it's not too bad. During the day, there's a lot of people moving about in camp, and not really that necessary. Hippo tracks here, hippo tracks that went through to our camp. I woke up this morning, opened my door and disturbed a hippo. That's one of the reasons why when it's dark guests are escorted, because you can't have guests bumping into hippo or lion or leopard. We do get all sorts of animals coming into camp. Okay, this might seem fast, just a little bit faster than a normal game drive speed, but we're on a mission. We're going to see if we can catch up with Karula and her children. Hello, Gil. Asking about the wildebeest. Why aren't they called canoes? I don't know if we'll get signal there. I'm on weird access. I'm also heading that way. You see, the problem is, the reason why we need to maybe just rush it a little bit is the guy who's with them. He might be there quicker than me. He drives. He's a bit closer. The guy that is with them is not really allowed to drive on this property. Sorry, Frankie, I have an idea where they are. But why are they not called canoe? Well, canoe is a sort of universal name. Wildebeest is the sort of the name that most people know in Africa. There's nothing wrong with calling them canoe. Both names are correct. patient with me. If we lose signal, we're heading into signal shadow areas. It's somewhere just ahead of us. It's somewhere just ahead of us. No, we're back now. Yeah. Abel, come in. Well, here we are, not far away, just around that bend in the road up ahead. I got a glimpse of Karula and one of the children. But as soon as we start going there, we lose picture. We don't have, funnily enough, we were asking, I mean, the question this morning was, wouldn't it help to have repeaters somewhere? And I was saying it wouldn't really help us that much. But this is one of those instances where it would really, really help us if we did have. Because there's a little strip of land, a couple of 100 yards long, between Sandy Patch and the gate, where we, as you can see, there's a little bit of a dip here, and it just takes us into a shadow of the signal from the main tower. And she's there, but she's moving through very thick bushes. She's moving in a northeasterly direction. I'm just thinking if it might not help to go. We can try and go back to Sydney's Dam. It'll take her a long time to get there, though. Abel is now with her. She's moving through very thick bush. I was hoping to catch her when she was coming through this area on our left here. It's quite open. But I can go forward again and we can try and drive around a little bit and see if we can get signal. But it's going to be more black screen than anything else, and I don't know if it's really worth it. Well, I mean, it's always worth it, but the problem is I don't want to have a black screen for too long. So we'll just try and monitor where they're going. Abel, come in. No, I can't come and join you there. If you're heading towards City Dam. Abel, you copy? Abel, come in. Okay, let's try. We'll try. The ground does get a little bit higher after the dip where she was. Let's just see what if we can't. If the ground does rise up a little bit, we'll see if we can't get a glimpse. Yeah, if you can. Well, we're a little bit west of the sighting now. I can actually see Abel's vehicle down in this dip. We don't get signal down there. So only thing I can hope is that maybe she's going to come this way and we'll be able to see her from here. If we try and move anymore, we're going to lose you, or you're going to lose us again. It's a nice termite mound here. If they might maybe come this way, we might be lucky. But we're on a little bit of high ground here, slightly higher up. And here comes Abel now. They've gone further northeast. Alright, let's try some more. not coming to termite. Two and a half years of being here. The long grasses down there. Still can't see her though. She must be deeper in that drainage line. We'll do some questions in the meantime, by all means. I'm hoping she might be able to come into view. Hello, Laurie. Laurie's asking if all the antelope in Africa are ruminants. Yes, they are, Laurie. I'm going to try and move to... We'll see how unusual. There's a tire here. Looks very much like one of the old tires that hyena might have brought it here. One of the old tires from Uganda. How it would get here, nothing being brought by hyena. Somewhere straight ahead of us, just judging by where cameras are pointing, but Joe wanted us to go to the hyena den. I wish those people would sit down. When you're sitting high enough in a vehicle, people still have to stand up. Hyena den. Joe, maybe Seb will go to the hyena den. We have spent a lot of time at the hyena den in the last couple of days. Or maybe tonight. I don't want to overdo it too much at the hyena den. But we do want to try and get a view of Karula, and we'll try and do so. Not much view from this angle. Always have certain vehicles that block our view. Finally, we get a few spots and a couple of ears. She's cross. She's cross with hissing at Graham's vehicle. Hello, pretty girl. She must have left the cubs because she was with them earlier. Yeah, she's moody because doesn't hiss at us, doesn't growl at us. Sorry, Vicky. She's gone deeper into the drainage line now. Just see the tip of her tail. She's going to come out at Sydney's Dam, and then right ahead of us is Sydney's Dam. Okay, we're going to leave. The other vehicles want to come in. And we can't go that way anyway, so head out this way. I want to pick up that tire. We got to see her. The cubs are somewhere in the bush here, nearby. Obviously gone aside. I don't know if we're back. Are we back, Seb? Okay. We can try and go around back to City Dam and see, but I think there are other vehicles. I see Radar's not doing too well here. If anyone's copying me, I've left the lock. Abel, come in. Seb, if you could just try on channel 2 for me, just tell them I've left the lock, please. Weird, very weird. That definitely looks like one of the tires that we used to use. But what's weird about it is that it hasn't been here for very long. Abel, come in. Welcome back, everybody. Well, we had to leave the area, and we were lucky enough to get a glimpse, as you can see, right on the edge of our broadcast area. Certain, even a couple of inches in height makes a bit of a difference. Ashe, fine, and you? Waarvan kom je? Slutty. Damalik. Yeah. Cool. Have a good day. You got that tube? Okay, I hope they can put a tube in it. Thanks, Jimmy. Hello, Valerie. Oops. Interesting feather. I wonder what this is from. Primary with a little bit of white on it. I must think about what this could have been from. Very interesting question. Do I think animals will recognize me, distinguish me from other humans? Well, to some extent I think so, yes. The animals that we see regularly become accustomed, first of all, they get accustomed to the sound of certain vehicles. Every vehicle makes a different sound, and vehicles that don't behave properly are vehicles that, I've seen it time and time again with lion, leopard, elephant, time and time again, how I'll give you an example. One of the first times I noticed it with elephants, we had a guide who was scared of elephants, and he would rev his Land Rover. The Land Rover it looked identical in ways. It sounded to the human ear, it sounded like our vehicle, my vehicle, other vehicles. But when this guy came along, the elephants would get edgy. I've just witnessed something now that proves my point as well. There was a vehicle parked too close to her, and the voices also, the guests were standing up as well as the guide was sitting up on the dashboard talking very loud to his guests, and the tail was flicking from side to side, and she growled at him and at the vehicle, and she spat at the vehicle. She got up and she walked to our vehicle. She looked at us, she softened her eyes, and she walked right in front of me without even hissing. She knows this vehicle. She has never become aggressive with this vehicle. She has only ever come aggressive with other vehicles, with guides that don't behave with her. And those are the guys, they drive exactly the same vehicles every time they do a drive, and they think it's fun, they think it's great, and they make all sorts of other excuses. I've watched animals and I've watched animal behavior, and I can't describe it as anything else other than reacting to vehicles that don't show the proper respect. I've seen it with elephant, I've seen it with lion, I've had lion charging in a sighting where I'm sitting with lion. I've had lion charging vehicles they don't like because those vehicles have misbehaved with them, forced them to move, or driven too close, or driven too fast in a sighting, and they ignore me. I think consistently seeing the same animals and having experiences with these animals. I mean, I've had Mishu standing at my door looking into my eyes on a couple of occasions. The amount of times we've had Karula coming past this vehicle. Oh look, it's getting a little bit cloudy. So Valerie, I think yes, I think very much so. There's a very distinct differentiation by the animals that we see regularly of all the vehicles that drive around here. I've been admonished in the past by some viewers because of my harsh reaction to the way other guides behave, and there have even been times when I haven't mentioned names, but viewers have mentioned names that they think were the names of people I'm talking about. Look, I'm sorry, I am who I am, and I voice my opinion about things, and I'm sorry if it upsets people. This is the real world that we live in. And sometimes there are guides here that shouldn't really be here because of the way they behave. Sorry to say, that's my feeling. But I am a little bit too, what's the word, intense sometimes. I need to relax a little bit. I think maybe it's just because I care too much and my passion is too deep, and I sometimes don't understand human behavior as much as I understand animal behavior. I just wanted to see Karula. It's like sitting with Mbula the other day, getting blocked from the sighting by other vehicles. It's not a nice thing. So, what are we going to find now? I wonder if those elephants have gotten anywhere closer to the dam. Oh, run away. Slender mongoose on top of a termite mound. Chuck in Hawaii, here's a new name, asking about the temporal gland in an elephant. The other day we were with an elephant, evidently was weeping from its temporal gland. Elephants have a gland between the eye and the ear, in front of the ear. Not like a scent gland, but what it does do is it does give off pheromones. It goes a goshawk. Land for me. It's quite a big goshawk. Could be a gabar goshawk. In the males, those glands weep when they're in must, when their testosterone levels are high. It's this land, this tree now. That bank to the left. Where is it? There it is. Sorry. Tuck in Hawaii. That's an interesting raptor that we have here. The lizard buzzard. A lizard buzzard. Okay, let me move a little bit, Vic. Has he gone?
Yeah.
Alright. I was trying to find it on the monitor. Not behind us somewhere. Maybe better light. There might be something here that is hunting, changing perches. And Marula. Big. Pardon? Oh, this tree. Oh, don't mean that tree. Where about? 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock-ish. Higher. They don't normally sit higher. Oh, there's hiding. Well, we've got to try and find it. And we can't find anything. Circled around us again. To another marula tree. Okay, well, we're not going to catch up with it. Lizard buzzard. I should have dropped this tire off. I'll do that. I'll drop it off at the bright side. So, those glands. In females, the glands weep when they're stressed a little bit. There's another one. 2 lizard buzzards here. I wonder if there's something going on with them. No, sorry Seb, for some reason I didn't get any of that. I could hear you, but it was like you were speaking a different language. Maybe it was too loud. Hello Valerie. Do large cats eat grass? Yes, they do. Pretty much the same reason why domestic cats and dogs eat grass. We're getting starting to cloud over rather quickly now. My feather, I'm still trying to think. The reason why I put it here is that I can glance at it. Hello mongoose. I can glance at it every now and then, and something might come to me. It might be a korhan, might be a bustard, but I'm not sure. Fairly large bird. The feather was on the main road, was away from water, so it's not one of the waterfowl. Brown leading edge, white trailing edge. It's a feather that is it's one of the primaries. What's a wing feather? This could very well be a stone tool. It's been worked way too much. You can see it's lost this point of it, but there's been far too many strikes in the right places for it to be random. It also has a very typical roundish shape at the top here where a hand, actually it might even be left-handed, but this area of a stone tool is very, very typical from all the stone tools I've ever found, and it's broken. This break is a natural break. I wonder if I could find the piece, but this is definitely a hand-worked piece of rock, worked by a human. this missing piece here would have been the point, would have been why it was discarded. But there are very clearly flakes broken off these edges, and no matter how much water flows, no matter how much a rock bounces down a hill or gets pushed by a river or gets kicked around by animals, the chances of the same, of the rock being struck in exactly the same place to be able to create this shape is very remote. So this, I would say, is most definitely a hand tool. And excuse me a sec. Can't really see if there's a stone that looks like it could be the tip of it. There was a bee on the ground. I thought it needed help. Tried to pick it up, but it flew away. Interesting. Interesting. Hello Jim in Texas. Nice to hear from you, Jim. I haven't heard from you for a while. How are you? Jim, wanting to know why the picture quality is so bad today. Well, the thing is, if we up the bit rate and we up the frames per second, you get a stop-start picture. And we've had to find a way to get a medium between bringing the picture to you in a fairly steady stream so that you can follow what we say, and of course quality of picture. I don't know why our internet is so much slower at the moment, but that's what it's all about. If we had a faster internet, we'd be able to up the bit rate. And increase the frames per second. We're running off at about 10 frames per second now. If we could run at 15 or 20 frames, even 25 frames per second, you'd get a very clear picture. We would up the bit rate to about 400. But at the moment we had to drop it down to about 300. South Africa, we just don't have the broadband, we just don't have the internet capacity that you have in other parts of the world. I'm just going to go, this is what we call a braai, the bush braai site. This is an area where the lodge brings guests, where they do dinner for guests here, sometimes they do breakfast for guests. I'm just going to leave this tire here, we'll come and collect it a little bit later. Rather than leave it lying out in the middle of the bush. I suppose in a way, just as they do underwater, or more so underwater they become reefs. Here on land, it is, I suppose there's a fair amount of non-biodegradable in a tire, and it will take forever for it to go anywhere, but something will find a way to live in it or under it or on it. It's not nice to have human-made things lying around the bush. water buck here, the little boys we saw earlier, they've all come out into the open, lying down now. Don't get up, don't get up. Sorry kids. Hello Elizabeth. Elizabeth's saying she's watching a program called Elephant Diaries. They were relocating elephants to Tsavo National Park. One of the females was weeping from a temporal gland, probably from the stress, not probably, it must have been from the stress of the translocation. It's very stressful to dart animals and to handle them. These are wild animals. To handle them, to drug them, they wake up. This is the thing that Seb saw the other day that I said was lion dung. Yeah, here's some more. I can see why Seb was a little bit confused, because there is a lot of grass in it, but it's mostly hair, it's mostly animal hair from something that they've eaten. There's a few fragments of bone in it. Old lion dung. Maybe from the Talalas when they were last here. This goes to show that they eat grass, Valerie, but they don't digest it. They don't have the ability to digest the cellulose. Yep, weather changes. I'm seeing cloud formations that tell me there's weather coming. I suppose just the fact that there's cloud means that there's weather coming. Laurie wants to know if termites infest the houses at Djuma. No, not really. They do. They've infested my house. They've invaded. In fact, I wonder when my roof's going to collapse. What's going to collapse first, my walls or my roof? My walls because the roof is collapsing, or my roof's going to collapse first? I don't know. Gary gang was here. But most buildings, especially out here, are built out, are made of brick. We don't have wooden buildings. Most buildings are brick and treated wood. Any of the beams or rafters for the roof are used, they're treated. So no, we can't really say that we have a termite problem in the buildings. I've got a thatched roof, so I've got a serious termite problem in my thatched roof. Any update on Karula? Romfene went down Weaver's Nest, by the way. Sorry Seb, I think you're breaking up in that dip. Debbie in New York asking a question about Kruger. I'm not too sure what to... Debbie, hello. Hello. Debbie in New York.
New York.
I'm showing you Kruger Park. On that map. Let me show you something. Debbie wanted to know, is it not a protected area? Do safaris take place there? Yes, they do. It is protected, Debbie. Here are two maps of the Kruger National Park that I have in my book, my bird book. I'll be able to point out some things to you. In the north of the Kruger Park, now, to answer your question, Debbie, yes, there are a bunch of camps. These red lines that you can see, this is the main road north to south in Kruger. And these are just the main roads in Kruger. There are a lot of smaller roads that run through Kruger. North to south, we've probably got close on 400 kilometers, I think, north to south in Kruger. Whoops, fallen down. I'm trying to think of the distance that it would be in miles. Maybe 300, 280, 300 miles long. It's a very long north-south park. Now, you can see in the old days, this western boundary of Kruger used to be a physical boundary. But one of the very first protected areas in this part of the world was an area over here. Let's see, we've got an area like this, almost. This area, which is actually the Sabi Sand. This is the Sabi Sand Game Reserve. It's not quite square, but that's more or less, this is more or less, you could say, the Sabi Sand. Djuma would be about there. That little round dot would be Djuma. In fact, that's quite big for Djuma. This area here would be Manyaleti. This little block would be Manyaleti. Now up here, this area on this side of things, this is known as Timbavati. Up in the very north, you get a little place called Umbabat, and this part on the west is called Klaseri. There's an area here known as Olifants and another area known as Belule. And all of the boundaries between all of these private areas and Kruger were taken down in the early 90s so that animals had a slightly greater area to move to the west of Kruger. This is north-south, by the way. Now, the type of safaris that we have here in the Sabi Sand are a little bit different to the way things work in Kruger. In Kruger, you can hire a car and you could go driving yourself in Kruger. But there are other companies, there are safari companies that have a license to drive semi-open vehicles through Kruger. So you can do safaris anywhere in Kruger. You can go anywhere you want to in Kruger, as long as it's on public roads, as long as it's not the National Park Service roads, then they are all demarcated. So yes, it is a protected area. The whole area is protected, including all these private reserves that are now part of the Greater Kruger National Park. It's just that you can't physically, as a human being, get from the Sabi Sand to Kruger. You just can't do that. That boundary that I showed you on the other map, the animals are free to walk across that boundary, but human is not, because it's a difference between the national park and private land. My house is up here somewhere. And this little east-west boundary of Kruger becomes actually my northern boundary, the northern boundary. So in a straight line from Djuma to my house, there's probably about 60, maybe 70 kilometers, 40 miles, if that. Maybe a bit more. If that answers your question, I don't know. Hope so. Give you an idea of things. Hyena were very busy here last night. Breaking up, sorry Seb. Yeah? Oh, Roger. Hello Roger. Do we find arrowheads, things from African tribes? Well, this stone tool is something. But arrowheads, no. The Shangaan people didn't really make bow and arrows. A lug nut. It's not my missing lug nut, but I got a funny feeling I know whose car it comes from. Do you recognize it, Mr. Romby? This no, not the thing we were looking for the other day, the thing you're going to be looking for later. Some cars yes, because it fell off. Some cars, small sedans, hatchbacks and things, have very plain, unattractive wheel rims. And when you buy these cars, they come with what looks like a really nice wheel, but they're actually covers that fit on the wheel that make it look like a different wheel. And of course they have artificial, what we call wheel nuts. Some people out there know as lug nuts. I mean, this is plastic. It doesn't have any purpose other than aesthetics. I think it comes from somebody's sedan, maybe not Seb's, but it comes from somebody's car, from the plastic wheel covers. I was on Weaver's Nest here. It was on the Weaver's Nest Junction, Chelapan. Roger. What was it that Roger was... No, I'm not done with Roger, because then I got distracted by a wheel nut. Pseudo wheel nut. The thing is that, yeah, the Shangaan people didn't really make arrowheads. But yes, this stone would have been from indigenous people who lived here, and it doesn't necessarily have to go very far back. Even up till about 200-300 years ago, there were still stone tools being used. And yes, there are a number of things that I found. I remember in Manyaleti we used to find grinding blocks or grinding stones, stones that have a concave face to them, and you have like a pestle and mortar type of thing, where you get a round stone that is used as the grinding stone, and then the base, and after hundreds of years of grinding, the same family passing on the grinding stone to relatives or to offspring, those grinding stones develop very distinct bowls. We used to find some of those, but they would be broken. When people would leave an area, they would break their grinding stone so that nobody else could use it. There are one or two. In fact, next time I come across one, I shall show you. There are a couple of pieces of grinding stones that I found here on Djuma from the past. And pottery. I found pottery in I'm just looking at drag marks. These are the same drag marks we were seeing the other day. I thought maybe they'd be different. Maybe they were new ones. People would bury things in clay pots, or if somebody died, they would bury their clay pots in a termite mound. I've found clay pots in termite mounds where over time the termite mound starts corroding, or rather eroding, and then the clay pots are exposed. Pan, still got water in it. I don't think we've had water in Pan this time of the year before ever. Do you remember that time when Mission and Duna were here? They were both, the water was right up to the base of this tree, and Mishu had a little terrapin. And he was on this branch, in this little jackalberry, and he dropped the terrapin, and I went to find it because he didn't bother looking for it again. But he had already bitten into it and he had already killed it. A baby terrapin. Memories. Memories. Yeah. Okay, Racer. I want to have a look at this feather a little more closely. White underneath. Oh, it's a squirrel eating jackalberry fruits. Thought I saw a couple of fruits plopping into the water. Angie, welcome to Djuma and welcome to our live safaris. See if you can focus on one of these jackalberry fruits. I'm going to see if I can find one on the ground while I'm talking. And just see broken shells from the squirrels that have been eating them. They were talking about fruits earlier today. Said I'd try and find a fruit. Angie, I don't know if I could change one thing. What would it be? If I could change one thing, what it would be, I would become an elephant. I think that's what I would change. I don't want to be a human anymore. And what's my favorite animal to share with you all? Impala. No. I guess elephant. It's hard to say. You know, when we're with leopard, it's really amazing to be with leopard. When we're with lion, when we were with last week with those two big male lions, jackalberry fruits. They're a bit high. I'm not going to be able to reach any of them. But they are edible. Not much fruit. The seeds are quite big, as you saw earlier with that one seed. But you could eat them. So what do you think, Racer? It's about 3 or 4 times the size of the feather of a plover. It's not one of the outer primaries, it's one of the inner primaries, so it's probably a number 7 or 8 primary. It's off of the left wing. No, not a heron. I've got that heron wing back at home, I can show you. It's also probably a more rounded wing than the heron's wing, which is maybe a sharper wing. I think it might be busted. No, wait. Might even be one of the eagles. A bit small though for an eagle. No, giant eagle owl's got barred feathers. I was thinking, no, you get the white patches in African hawk eagle's wings. Also, it's got a very long shaft. Might also be a juvenile. Maybe like a juvenile snake eagle. Deborah in Tennessee. Interesting. Hi, Deborah. I want to visit Tennessee one day. Good things come out of Tennessee. Music and bourbon. Actually, it's whiskey. It's not bourbon. It's not whiskey. It's not bourbon. It's Jack. Wanting to know. See, I talk about things and then I'll lose the question. Lost my question out of my head. Boom. Sorry, Seb, remind me quickly. Can you believe it? I'm thinking of the answer. My mouth is talking about something else and I forgot the question. Ah, of course. Yeah. Horseback safaris in Botswana. Wanting to know, are they not dangerous for the horses? What do I think about them? I think it is a phenomenal, fantastic way to view wildlife. I managed a camp up in Kenya that had horses, and the horses are trained to deal with the likes of lion and elephant and other large mammals, so they're quite used to it. It can be dangerous for the horses. It can be just as dangerous for the riders too. A horse throws you and runs away and leaves you for the lion. It's a really lovely way to see animals because most of the animals will let you get a lot closer than in a vehicle or on foot. And as long as you behave. I think the things that are most dangerous for the horses are things like picking up ticks, mosquitoes, and illnesses that the horses can get. Those are the things that are more dangerous. I mean, invariably horses are then stabled and they're kept safe from lion at night. But no, I think this way, they're animals. They can cope with being in the wild. I'm sure they love it. I'm sure it must be fun for them too. And a lot of these horses have been exposed to animals, so that they know how to behave with them. Let's put it this way, I don't think it's bad. I don't want to use the word cruel, because that's not really where I'm going with this. But I don't think it's detrimental to the horse's well-being. My brother knows them quite well, the people that do the horseback safaris in Botswana. I'd have to find out. I don't think they've lost any horses. Maybe they have, I don't know. Anyways, Racer, got any suggestions yet? We've got to close off soon. An Egyptian goose? No, not the right color. But thanks, Gil. And that was from who, sorry? Yvonne. Yes, Yvonne was asking, are there at least fences on the western edge of the private reserves to stop animals from wandering into towns? And yes, very much so. Very important fence, in fact. For that very fact, both animals wandering into towns and villages and causing havoc, things like elephants causing havoc with agriculture, or predators causing havoc with domestic stock, eating cows and goats. So there has to be a fence in the west, yes. Something weird just came onto the road and ran back into the grass. Ah, slender mongoose. Just saw the black tip of its tail. Okay, let's get up to the open area and I'll say goodbye to you up there. Time to say goodbye. Been a somewhat of a quiet morning. Lucky enough to get a glimpse of Karula. Her cubs are somewhere just off of the access road where we first saw her, but there is no signal there, so we're not going to be able to go and see them. But she's gone up onto Buffelshoek, which means that she might go hunting, she's gone hunting no doubt. And we'll have to wait and see what happens this afternoon. The guys go onto Buffelshoek for drive. In the meantime, thanks for joining us. Thanks for those of you who are new to Djuma and to our live drives. Sorry to get you up, Impala. I didn't really mean to. My name is Mark. Becky's been on camera. Seb has been in final control. And this has been Djuma Game Reserve, our morning safari. Bye everybody. Sleep well. Have a lovely day. And we'll see you a little bit later.